style. It's their swag. The point I'm making is the real marriage begins when all that is over. That's the real work. And the makeup and the perfect clothes and the perfect ceremony will not change habits that were there before you even met this person. So we can say a lot to people who are already married about how they talk to one another, how they handle themselves when they're upset, how often they insult or shouldn't insult. But if you are still single, then I say, you know what? You are in the best position right now. Work on your habits, pull you into marriage. And from what people observe and from what researchers have seen, what breaks marriages is bad manners. I'm angry, an insult flies out. And the insult is not just directed at my spouse, but my family, tribe, Katsina men, all you Katsina men, they warned me, I don't know why I still married you. Or Dama, they said it, you women that are educated, you will try and climb on my head. If you have those habits, they will follow you into marriage. Now about raising kids. When it comes to raising our children, I think the main thrust of my talk on raising children today is be aware you are not the only one raising your children. If I ask the question, who is raising your children? Don't stop at me, I am, our family members are. Actually say the village is raising our children. And I don't mean the village in the old sense, but the global village is raising our children. Everybody wants your child. Governments want your child. They are the future. In about 10, 15 years' time, your teenagers are the ones making money. Those in their late teens and early 20s are the ones in government making policies, making big business decisions, making some decisions for you. The governments know this. So governments that are wise are actively trying to raise children who will push forward their ideas, their manifesto. Companies know this. So companies invest heavily in targeting children. Tech companies and some of these social media outfits, Facebook and Instagram have been named among them, they have persuasion labs where psychologists go to work figuring out how best to keep your child online for as long as possible. And if your child's tahajjud is on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or wherever else online, those companies are happy. Groups want your children to be their soldiers, their advocates, their loyalists. Either armed soldiers or pen soldiers or keyboard soldiers, keyboard warriors. There's nothing wrong with all of these things if the goals of these people who are also trying to raise your children do not align with what it means to be a Muslim. So even in raising your children, you have to ask, what does it mean to be a parent? If you have a child living in your house, then you are their parents. That child is yours. Your children's friends, by extension, are your children. Any child who is influenced by something you say or do, or they watch you and they copy you, for that moment, to that extent, becomes your child. So don't say, I'm not yet married. Are you influencing a child? Then you are that child's parent. Don't say, I'm 20 years old, I'm only 18. Are you influencing someone else? Then you are their parent. So when we talk about this, we have to go back to the root of our origin, our source. Who are we? We are Muslims. What does that mean? There are the externals. Our shahada, we declare it. Our salah, our fasting. But there's the internal. Where is your moral compass pointing? What's your true north spiritually? If you're focusing on Allah all the time, then you will be trying to move towards Him, not away from Him. Then your path will be towards Him, not away from Him. And we cannot say we truly believe in Allah if we don't understand Him. None of us can lay claim to, I hear Allah's voice in my head. If you start making such declarations, we'll start looking at you funny. But we do know where to find His words. It's in the Quran. How well do we understand the Quran? How well do we understand what He says? How well do we seek to know the meaning and the implication of verses in the Quran? How well do we read the Hadith with a view to knowing how do I apply this in my life? Not just how do I quote the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, but how do I apply this? They will become just like you. They will become just like you. I know in many ways I've become like my mom. And sometimes I'm like, chai, and I used to say, mommy, 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 now see me doing the same thing. So knowing yourself is the beginning of raising a child, just as knowing yourself is the beginning of finding the right kind of spouse. Now, talking about children, there's another very important thing I keep talking about. I call it parental oppression. Parental oppression. When we have children and we are raising them, you have to ask, raise them for what? Raise them to become what? Who designed them? Who crafted them? Not you. No matter what kind of bedroom gymnastics produced them, none of your gymnastics had anything to do with how they turned out. They may have your DNA, but your DNA is like a cocktail of generations and generations of people before you. And you have no say in how that entire cocktail comes out. You have no say in this salad that becomes your child. The mistake many of us make as parents is we want them, our children, to fill the gaps we think we left out. We want them to make up for the mistakes we think we made. We want them to hit those goals we did not hit and we couldn't. So you have a parent declaring something like, I always wanted to be a doctor, but wallahi, they didn't allow me. Guess one of you has to become a doctor. If the parent has to do tinini tanana biko biko, they will do just to find the one. Doctor. I know I'm exaggerating, but that's what it feels like. The fervor with which they say the child must become this. And as an educator, I'm looking at the child and I'm saying, I don't see doctor here. We are looking at the child's track record and we're saying this trajectory isn't saying doctor. And even if the child is first in physics and first in chemistry and first in biology, is the child not first in something else? Where is this child's mind? Where are they pointing? What is the pull? What is their fitra? I feel each human being was designed specifically in certain ways to fulfill certain purposes on earth. That for this world to continue to exist, for this world to be maintained, to be enhanced, every human being has to reach a certain level of excellence. But the excellence comes from that for which they were already divinely crafted. But a parent stands in the way and says, no, this great journalist must go off and become an engineer. Then they make bridges that collapse and everybody blames the engineer or blames the government or blames God, and God is like, what? I designed the child, I put signals there, but you ignore them all. It comes also in terms of marriage. You must marry this person. We've been family friends for so long. You must marry this person. Okay, if you like that person so much, you marry him. So what happens at the end of the day? They enter the marriage only half invested, and marriage is hard work. Marriage is tough work. Even when you were drunk with love when you got married, after marriage, you start to feel the pressure, let alone when you were even pushed into it. All you want to do is find a way to get out. And there's nothing in Islam that says a parent should compel a child to marry someone they do not wish to marry. If you have a sound reason as a parent, like the person's character or habits, then do intervene. But not to actually push in the opposite direction. Wallahi, we've seen cases where a child says, I've seen signs in this person, there's a problem. I can't tell you what it is, but there's a problem. And the parent says, after we finish buying cow, after we finish sending out invitation cards, you will not disgrace me. Wallahi, you will marry him. And these are real life stories. We are not joking about this. Then they get married. The marriage itself is the problem. Then they try to fix the problem by having a child. And I come back to parental oppression. The child becomes the plaster for fixing the hole left by the gap in the marriage. So the child comes into this environment, and the parents are trying to raise the child. How? You cannot raise a plant when the weeds are there. You are not plucking out the weeds. You say the plant should thrive. How will the plant thrive? The weevil in the bean is what destroys the bean first. Those small black things, they will scatter your entire bag of beans if they remain in it. And sometimes we are the ones letting the weevils in. Lastly, think about this simple fact. When Allah was going to create Adam, the first human being, he said he's going to put on earth a Khalifa. If we explore a bit about what Khalifa means, it means someone who is a representative. of Allah's way, of His will, of His words. Someone who is a custodian, who is aware that I've been given certain things on this earth and I'm to take care of them. It also means someone who is an inheritor, that everything I have, I inherited. My skills, my looks, my physique, everything material also, I inherited. I came into this world with nothing. I chose nothing. And a successor, I have taken from others, I will give to others. If you operate your marriage with this perspective in mind of who you are, you will find it becomes clearer how to manage conflict, how to manage difficulty, how to manage temptations. If you look at your spouse and you say, I'm also seeing a Khalifa, a representative, a custodian, someone that Allah has honored with this title, there's a way you will treat your spouse. You don't need ustaz, you don't need love doctor, you don't need small little me telling you anything. Your fitra will kick in and you will find your way, inshallah. If you think of your children also in that sense, it also guides you. That will be what stops you from telling your child you are too fat. Because you realize Allah gave us a beautiful title, all human beings. I cannot diss my child this way. So instead you tell your child you need to have healthy body weight. You need to eat better, not you are too fat. In that case, you don't tell your child, Dama, I know nothing good will come out of you. This is how you spoil everything I give you. That is why I will never give you something new, but I'll give your brother. Instead, you talk to your child about how do you learn to be more careful with your things. It brings in respect for yourself, respect for the others you are dealing with. And in marriage, I think push rules to the end. Rules, what is the law, what is haram, what is halal in your interaction. Think first, compassion. Think first, humanity. I'm a human being and this is a human being. The person you've married is a package. You cannot take them apart the way a child will say, I don't like green beans in fried rice. They'll pick out the beans, they'll pick out the carrots, they'll pick out, and leave only what they want. You can't do that with a human being. You can't say, I like his looks. I like this, I like that, but guess what? His mother, I don't like her. How do I cut it off like bread? Slice off the bits you don't want. You can't. You've married a package. Love the package. Love the package. Look for the human being in that person all the time. And yes, even when the person is being cruel to you. It's when you look for the human being and you remember I am Khalifa too, just like this person, that you will know how best do you handle even the one who is being unkind to you. It's a tough road to go, but if your Qibla is pointing to Allah, if a lot of what you do is about what would Allah prefer, then you would know that revenge doesn't always work. We see revenge coming up after divorce. You've divorced, but you've not divorced. You are still married to the quarrel. You are still married to the anger, to the acrimony. But if we have our Qibla in the right direction, then many other things start to make sense. I'm not saying many other things will be easy. I would be lying to you if I did. Sometimes, actually, to stick on the road back to Allah is the hardest thing you can do. It's tough. People may blame you for it. Sometimes your brain blames you for it. Your brain asks you, why didn't you fire him back and give him 10 words when he told you that one painful thing? Your brain tells you, why didn't you just slap that mouth of hers? The next time she tells you that, just slap her mouth. She'll cry, she'll stop insulting you. Your brain will tell you stuff. The road to Allah is the best way to go. It's just not easy, but it's worth it, I believe. Jazakumullahu khairan kathira.